Canadian quarterback Nathan Rourke joins us. Where do we find you today, Nathan?
I'm in Athens. I'm on campus. Been there for a couple of weeks now. Would like to be home, but just based on what everything's going on, I'm here for now.
Let's go back to your time at Ohio University, first of all, because you had a bit of a winding road to get there, a unique one for sure, and then had an ultra-productive career with the Bobcats. When you look back on it, what stands out most to you in terms of memories?
Yeah, there's so many things that we were able to accomplish. I was so proud to be a part of 3 bowl-winning teams, 3 consecutive bowl-win teams. I thought that every single year it was unique, had their own different things, but the bowl games are really the best part about it. Being able to travel to different places in the U.S. and in the Bahamas and be able to compete on a national stage was always really fun. And the fact that we were able to go to 3 and then win 3 was really, really special.
And you capped your career off with a bowl win. Have you been eating potatoes ever since?
I was eating potatoes before, but yeah, that was definitely has a more special significance now.
And then you get into the NFL draft process. First step was going to the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl. What was that experience like?
It was a super cool experience. So on so many different levels, that there's so many teams there that want to interview you and whatnot. Crazy experiences there, but also being able to compete with other players in that were NFL hopefuls. But then also being able to learn Hugh Jackson's offense. He was the offensive coordinator, and learning his verbiage of the West Coast offense a little bit, and getting to call plays in a huddle, something that Ohio didn't ask me to do. So learning that terminology and being able to spell it out and say it to 10 other guys in a huddle was very unique. And then being under center and doing all the I-formation stuff and really learning a pro-style offense was really fun for me. So and then being able to do that in the game, which was really fun. And so I had a really great time, and I think I was able to talk to some teams and have and make a good impression, I think, in most people's eyes.
There's always a lot of talk at those all-star games about the week that is and sort of picking up the offense quickly. What was it like for you to learn Hugh Jackson's offense? Obviously been a head coach in the NFL before, an offensive coordinator at a high level, had some dynamic attacks. But how tricky is it to go in there in 1 week and learn, as you sort of alluded to, something that's entirely different and do some things that you've never done before?
Yeah, the good thing is that football is football, so there's some things that that the concepts were the same. They just call them something different. The biggest thing for me was learning the formations, something that I didn't really have to call again. And so what I did is, first day was really heavy install. Obviously, a bunch of new things. We went to a walkthrough. I remember the night on Sunday night we were going to have practice, our first practice on the Monday, and Sunday I was really lost. I didn't really know what I was doing. So I had to go. I spent a lot of time after that, after the interviews and everything, and spent time going through the script, saying it out loud, walking through it myself, so that on Monday I didn't make a complete fool of myself. And as the week went on, I got way more comfortable, and to the fact where I was in the game, the coach would call the play, and he might get stumble on the word or call it a little bit different or a little bit wrong, and I'd be able to correct him in the huddle so that we were on the same page in the game. So I studied really, really hard because it was something that was really foreign to me, but it was a good experience because I feel like moving forward into OTAs or rookie mini camp, whenever that may be, I'm hoping that that experience of working hard to learn terminology will help me in the future because I've already done this before and I've developed study habits and whatnot and kind of strategies to do so.
Can you take us through what a typical day was like at the NFLPA Collegiate Bowl? Because I feel like a lot of people think it's glitz and glamour and you end up getting able to play on TV at the end of the week, but those are some long days there and you got to be on the entire time.
Yeah, it was very long days, waking up pretty early around 6:30 for breakfast, going right to meetings with our position coach, going over the script for today's practice, team meeting, going to practice, which was pretty long, and I was fortunate to be a quarterback, so I wasn't hitting or anything, but they're very long practices in very beautiful weather in Pasadena, California, and then we'd come back from that, have some time, a little bit of time off to kind of just relax a little bit, and then we'd have our evenings were pretty packed. We'd have dinner, we'd have a speaker that we'd hear from, and then we'd have interviews with teams for such a long time where they would just ask you about your college career, some questions, get some things out of the way. Some of them were really cool. I got to watch some film and then drop some plays with some people, and so that was cool. But they really took up a big chunk of your time, so I was really getting to bed around 11:30. Sometimes, and then I'd have to study, after that, whenever I could. I was just kind of going through that script and making sure that I knew things. But yeah, it was a long day, and I definitely after that slept really, really well after that.
I bet. Who was the coolest speaker that you heard from while you were down there?
Man, there was a lot of guys, and I don't know if I remember any of the names, but there were some guys that were really charismatic and were able to, really good speakers and stuff like that, really speaking about how to manage your finances as a young player in the league. A lot of guys not used to having, millions of dollars at their disposal, and how to be smart about that, and then preparing for your next stage of your life after football, developing a career plan, just kind of those things. And then we heard from some former NFLPA players who've had success in the NFL, which was really cool. So there was a bunch of different guys. Some guys from, there was a speaker who developed the Netflix show All American. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that show. He came back, and because he played at the NFLPA, I think he was at the Dolphins most recently. And so he helped develop that show because it's based on his life, and he came back and talked to us. And so that was really cool about kind of the next stage of planning when you're in the NFL, planning for your next stage when football ends up being done, because you never really know. So that was a cool speaker. So that might be the one that jumps up to me.
You mentioned that your days were long, pretty much 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. at night, and it was largely at night when those NFL team interviews were taking place. What was it like going through that process? Like, take us inside the hotel, because it seemed like you were being pulled sort of by NFL scouts here and coaches there and everyone that you walked by that was interested.
Yeah, so we were in this big, really beautiful hotel, but we were in this hallway, this long hallway, and we had a place where we ate, and then we'd come out of the meetings where this big auditorium where we would eat. When we would do the meetings with the NFLPA staff. And you came out of that, and I was just, you try to get back to your room, but there'd be, a bunch of scouts on the side, and you'd have like a name tag on, and they would be looking for that because some of them haven't really seen you. And they just pull you to the side and say, can I take 10, 15 minutes? You do one interview, and then you'd be trying to walk back to the elevators, and then another person would take you. And some of them would would text you and set up an interview that way, and like a scheduled time. So I did have a couple of those, but a lot of them were just picking you off in the middle of the hallway. And so it was pretty hectic because you didn't know how many you're going to have every night. And especially for me, I like to plan things out. And so I definitely appreciated those two. They took the time to schedule it, but it was also really cool to kind of just talk to guys and be able to interview with people, which I always think is a strength of mine. And so kind of just talk football, which I love to do.
And what were those interviews like? Were some of them more based on film, or was it just to get to know Nathan as a person? Take us through that.
Yeah, so a lot of them were just to check some boxes, kind of figure out, hey, how you have any off the field issues? What's your status? You're single, you're married, you have kids, kind of the moving situation. If they did draft you, what would that look like? And then just kind of check some boxes about character. What kind of be a team player, someone who's going to be able to come in and help the team right away. What's his attitude going to be like? And so a lot of personality tests, kind of see where you're at. Some tough questions as well. And they try to trick you and kind of see how your brain works. So those are definitely tough, and it was fun talking with the other guys, kind of seeing what was the toughest question you got and how did you answer it and whatnot. So that was cool.
How do they try to trick you?
They would say stuff that doesn't really make sense. Like they said, my toughest question I ever got was a team asked me, if we ever cut you, what would be the reason? And it's just, I don't really know how you approach that, so especially on the, in the moment, it's tough to come up with something to kind of answer that. And so I think they try to see how your mind works and how you think on the fly and whatnot, and try to get you to say something you probably shouldn't. But I think there's a good way of answering it, and I'm confident that I answered that pretty well.
And did some teams put you up on the whiteboard or watch some film and get you to go over some verbiage and dissect defenses?
Yeah, so that was really cool. There was only a couple teams that did that, but I had some teams that asked me to drop a play, there was one team that pulled up some film, and we went through it and wanted me to talk about it, and so that was really awesome as well. So those are the ones that I enjoyed the most, was the ones who talked football.
Were there any scouts or coaches that you talked to that kind of gave you big eyeballs? Like, I can't believe I'm talking to this guy who's either coached in the league for a while or had played in the league and transitioned now into coaching or the front office?
I mean, it was just cool talking to NFL teams. Honestly, I didn't. There wasn't many coaches there. A lot of them were scouts at that point, but smaller bowl than the East West or the Senior Bowl. But it was still really cool to talk to NFL teams and just kind of texting my dad throughout the time, just kind of keep track of it, but also to just kind of let him know how it was going and kind of texting him a list of NFL teams that I had talked to, and that was really awesome. But I mean, I talked to a guy from the Patriots, and we had a really good long conversation, and like leading up to the interview about Coach Belichick and what the Patriot way is and whatnot, and because I just love that thing. I love the idea of that and whatnot, and we kind of bonded about that. So that, at least I think so. So it was a really good conversation with him. So that was probably the coolest one, because he also pulled up film, and so that was really fun.
So you might be in line to take over for Tom Brady?
I don't know, but I hope. I think that'd be a cool situation to be in.
Overall, how many teams do you think you spoke with or interviewed with while you were at the PA Bowl?
I'd say probably 15 to 20.
And then how integral was that, considering that you had a pro day scheduled for March 17th, but obviously with the coronavirus and lockdown and government restrictions, that wasn't able to happen. So how crucial was it for you to have that opportunity to meet with those NFL teams in person, considering now that your pro day was canceled?
Yeah, I think it was huge. I think that a lot of teams want to come and see you in person, shake your hand, get to know you as a person. And obviously, a lot of teams want to see you throw. I know even for Division I coaches, a lot of teams won't offer a quarterback unless they've seen him throw in person. So they want to be able to do that. But obviously, some teams I know that I've talked to have called me and said that they wanted to come and see me at my pro day and wanted to talk to me afterwards, get me on the board and stuff like that. Those are some of the teams that weren't in the NFLPA Bowl, but the teams that I did talk to at the NFLPA Bowl were it was really good to be able to talk to them and have them get to know me a little bit, talk football and watch film with some of those guys. So I think that was definitely an advantage, and I think it's more beneficial now looking back on it.
What did you do in the time between the NFLPA Bowl and leading into your pro day? Although it was canceled, you had a virtual one, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. But what did you do in that time in the middle? Because I sensed that you were hoping to get an invite to the NFL Combine. Was that close? And aside from that, what were you doing to sort of continue moving forward?
Yeah, the NFL Combine, the lack of an invite was definitely tough. I looked at the amount of quarterbacks that were invited this year, and there wasn't as many as there has been in the past. So I definitely thought that, it would have been cool to be able to go there, especially for the interviews, to be able to talk to teams and have them get to know me and stuff. But it is what it is. I was training in Nashville for about 6 weeks leading up to our scheduled pro day, and we were going over combine drills, the 40-yard dash, our shuttles, broad jump, vertical jump, and just kind of lifting and getting really strong. And so it was really cool. A lot of position work as well, getting accustomed to three-step under center, 5-step, 7-step play action, boots, all that different stuff that maybe I hadn't done when I was at Ohio. So that was really cool. And so I think that stuff that we continued to rep even after everything was canceled, just to make sure that we were able to do it and that we could get video on it and be able to circulate that to all 32 teams.
And you eventually did that with what people, I guess, are calling now a virtual pro day. When and where did that take place, and how did you execute it?
Yeah, so we did. We tested all of the combine drills, or the shuttles, the 40-yard dash. We timed all that, did our measurements, the height and weight. We did that in Nashville, and that's really credit to Jordan Llewellyn, who was the guy who trained me at Boost in Nashville. We set that all up, got some former scouts, former GMs to come in time and add credibility to the whole event, just so we could send it out and have some validity behind it. So we did that in Nashville, and then I went back to Athens and had some teams request me to film my pro day positional work. So I did a script of about 50 throws with some receivers, filmed that in Ohio and Athens, and was able to send that out as well. So that's how we really attacked that.
What former GMs were there in Tennessee?
It was a former Titan GM.
Ah, that really helps because a lot of people have been talking about, well, has the video been doctored or are guys really running, the full 40 yards? But for you to have former NFL front office guys there who could relate and say, hey, this is legitimate. I was there. I saw it with my eyes. How beneficial is that to you?
Yeah, I think it was good. I think it was great. I mean, the tough part is that it was outside. It was not the ideal conditions. Because of everything that was happening, gyms being closed, including the gym that we trained at for about 6 weeks. That was closed. We couldn't do it there, so we had to do it outside on a baseball field, turf field. But it wasn't the ideal situation. It was windy, and it was cold, and so no one, I think, performed as well as they would have hoped. But it was better than, at this point, we're kind of saying this a lot, but it's better than nothing. So we were just hoping to be able to maybe some checks and boxes that some teams were asking questions about. But hopefully they understand the circumstances, they understand what the conditions were like, and just look at film more than anything.
Do you want to share any of your official numbers, maybe height and weight and 40? Because you're a pretty good runner.
Yeah, well, like I said, I didn't run as well as I would have liked. I was running really fast times when I was training, and so I was disappointed when I went into the Nashville Combine and wasn't able to get that out of the best times out of that. But I mean, I think if you look at the film, I think you turn on the film, you look at the Marshall game. I had some, every single year of my career, I had a 70-yard plus run, and against really high level competition. And so I think that I've always been faster in the game anyway, so I'm not really too worried about the time.
Yeah, what were some of the times that you were running fast in training?
Yeah, I was hoping to run in the low 4.6s. That was what I was hitting that, and I ran a laser time that was just around there. And so to not run that when they were videoing it and sending it out was disappointing.
But considering the rain and all of that, it's easy to see that you're clearly in that range. And as you said, you can just see when you turn on the tape, and there's a clear difference between track speed in the 40 and game speed. And you've shown that in terms of being a runner at Ohio University. So you have your virtual pro day. What's been going on since then? Because from what I've heard from scouts on both sides of the border, you've had a number of calls, been talking to teams, and are impressing in interviews. It's almost like you treat it like you're interviewing these teams. I've heard you're taking notes out there and really impressing front office people that you're talking to.
Yeah, I mean, every single interview that I do is important to me. I want to understand what kind of situation it would be if I were to end up there. So I take it with that kind of mindset. That's the kind of mindset that I took when I was looking at Division I schools as well. Obviously, they're the ones who can offer me, and right now, NFL teams, CFL teams are the ones who would draft me. So, but it's just as much as for me to be able to understand what kind of situation I'm getting into, what kind of quarterbacks are on the roster. What I would just kind of not going into something blind. I think showing teams that I'm prepared, and I think if you can make an impression on teams and say this is how I take something like an interview that might not be as important as something else. Saying this is how important I take this interview. Imagine how important I will take things when I are in your facilities. I'm in your program, and that's really the message that I want to tell teams, and I want them to get from me.
What's the feedback that you're getting from NFL teams in terms of where do they see you in terms of pro-style quarterback and being an NFL quarterback? And do you have a feel for when you could potentially come off the board in the NFL draft?
Yeah, it's tough to tell right now. I'm hoping for more things to develop. I have talked to many teams. My agent has heard from many teams with some positive feedback, which is really, really good. And I really don't know. I'm hoping, maybe in the 7th round, but definitely having an opportunity to get on a team, maybe as a priority free agent. That'd be a good situation as well, because then we get to pick the situation that we're going into. Maybe one less quarterback or a better situation to make the roster, which is fine. But when you're a 7th round pick, you don't get to really pick where you end up. So we're okay with that no matter what happens, and we're trusting God's plan on that.
So it might almost be better in that undrafted free agent scenario where you have multiple offers and you can look at the quarterback depth chart and say, I'm going to go here because I can see myself competing legitimately for a roster spot. Is that right?
Yeah, that's 100% right. I don't know. There was a great a documentary on Tony Romo on the football life the NFL Network put out, and basically that's how his situation went as well. He was an undrafted guy. It really came down to the Broncos and the Cowboys for him, and the Broncos were actually offering him more money, but he knew that he had a better chance to make the team with Dallas, and so he went with Dallas. And so that'd be something that I could see myself doing as well, because I really just want to make a team and make it 53 and be able to put myself in a position to play.
The Canadian Tony Romo.
Yeah.
Have teams been talking to you at all about your athletic ability, in the sense of, we've seen the emergence of Taysom Hill, and in Canada, Chris Strevler did some wonderful things with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in their run to the Grey Cup, and that earned him an opportunity with the Arizona Cardinals. So are they looking at you in that way, that yes, you're a skilled quarterback, but you could also potentially help be a playmaker in other ways on offense?
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard from some teams that wanted me to do some different things in my pro day, wanted me to see me running routes, asked about some special team stuff, and asked if I was willing to do that, catch the ball, do some things like a Taysom Hill. So I definitely think that's more a compliment more than anything to my athletic ability, and which is great. I love playing quarterback. I love doing those things, but it's all about, what can I do for a team, and how can I fit in with them.
I believe you do have a touchdown catch from your time at Ohio, right?
I have two, actually. Yeah.
Two? My mistake.
Yeah, no worries.
So did you tack that on the back end of the highlight film, maybe, that you sent out to NFL teams?
Yeah, I probably should have, right?
And, a lot of people are going to look at you up in Canada and kind of wonder, well, will Nathan Rourke ever play in the CFL? I mean, majority of people are hoping that you get an NFL shot, which is legitimate, and make a roster down there. But how are you viewing the CFL right now? Because you've been interviewed by a number of teams from north of the border.
Yeah, obviously I grew up in Canada. I have a tremendous respect for the CFL. I follow the CFL. I know guys that are in the CFL. I have guys that I play with right now who are going to be playing in the CFL hopefully soon. And so there's nothing against the league at all. But obviously you want to play with the best of the best, and that's the NFL right now. And so we're going to exhaust all options with the NFL, and then see where it takes us. I just know that I want to play, and I know that there's going to be an opportunity for me in the CFL as well. And no matter where I'm playing, I'm going to give my full effort and contribute as much as I can, and then we'll see what happens.
The new NFLPA has opened up more active roster jobs and even practice roster spots as well. Do you feel like that could benefit you in terms of sticking with the team?
Yeah, absolutely. Brandon Bridge has done some really good things in terms of highlighting the problems with Canadian quarterbacks being counted or not being counted as Canadian. And I think that the more that we can do that, the better it is for players like myself, where we can count quarterbacks as Canadians, and I think that will, be able to grow the position in Canada. And I think that's great, and I think it's beneficial to myself and to many players like me.
You were a young kid growing up in Oakville, Ontario, and set out for Alabama. When you made that decision, were you picturing yourself in this position now as a prospect for the NFL draft with a chance to get a legitimate look at the NFL level?
I don't really know. I've never been the guy who looks too far in the future. I knew that I wanted to play in the NFL, and it's crazy now to think that I'm so close to being able to realizing a dream of mine that I've had for such a long time. Everything that I did in terms of moving to Alabama, going to junior college, trying to get to a Division I team was set myself up to essentially be in this position now and play professional football, because it's all I've ever wanted to do. And so it's tough to say that at that point that I exactly pictured it right, exactly turning out this way. But I'm so fortunate for the people in my life that have been able to make that possibility and have supported me along the way.
What are you doing right now in terms of staying in shape and being ready for when that call comes from an NFL team?
Yeah, it's tough. You have to be creative, definitely, because there's not too much that's open. I know that our campus is closed, our facilities are closed, and we're just trying to stay in shape as much as possible, doing the workouts that I need to work out on, and doing speed stuff, running around, throwing the football as much as I can. I've got some targets and stuff like that I can throw to, so I don't have to give a throw to a person. But it's tough because there's not a lot of people here, and you're trying to self-isolate and kind of be safe and everything, and for not only yourself but for other people, especially those at risk. And it's tough, but I mean, I think that this is a time where you really kind of figure out, who are the guys who are really working, and because if you're really working, you really like what you're doing, and I'm hoping that that's what I can show NFL teams and CFL teams.
What might a typical workout day look like for you in terms of obviously keeping your body in shape, but throwing? Is there sort of a number of sets and reps and different movements that you're going through, and then you try to get a certain amount of throws in every day, or do you sort of put a number on it so you're not exhausting your arm?
Yeah, that's a good question. I've been the last couple of years, especially when I was at Ohio during this time of the year, I would only throw a couple of times a week, so about three, 4 times a week. And so I kind of stay with that, trying to give my arm rest, but not overdoing it. Obviously, you want to get the reps, but not overdoing it like you would in a season. You want to be able to rest it, make sure you're ready to go. So that's kind of the approach that I've taken now. I do a lot of the things. I want to make sure that I'm getting a 3, a 5, and a 7-step drop under center, just to make sure that I know it. Because I've done for 3 years. I've done shotgun. I've done play action stuff from shotgun. I've done those things from Ohio because they asked me to do it. But I haven't, so much done those things. So I want to make sure that I'm doing well with that stuff. Footwork's huge. And then just, I spent some time in California with some quarterback guys who were telling me exactly how to throw, how to be able to incorporate my lower body into my throwing motion, take some stress off my arm, just be more consistent and more efficient with the motion. And so a lot of mechanical things that I'm still trying to make sure that I'm doing and getting better in that regard, because I want to get to the point where every single throw that I make is effortless. And I've definitely felt that feeling, but it's not a consistent thing. So there's definitely things that I'm just doing to try to get to that point mechanically, but also just trying to get a rhythm in my feet.
What's on the schedule between now and the NFL and even we'll say the CFL draft? I feel like everyone has seen Jerry Jones, the Dallas Cowboys owner, doing those virtual interviews on the big screen TVs. Do you have any of those lined up, or is it more phone calls, or what's on the schedule between now and the NFL draft?
Yeah, so I hopefully have some more Zoom calls. I've had some calls with some CFL teams already, and hopefully there's some NFL teams. I have one scheduled for later today, and so I'm hoping to get more of those, sit down with some coaches and talk some ball and stuff like that. So that'd be awesome. But that's really the only thing that's scheduled is these interviews. And right now would be a time where they do pre-draft 30s, where they have, every team has 30 players or prospects that they can invite to their facilities to go through film and to kind of meet them and get to know them and stuff like that. And this is a time that would be happening, and it's tough right now that we don't get to do that. So teams are just kind of making it up with Zoom calls and video chats or whatever you want to call them. So that's really what I have in store, and then just staying in shape and waiting for my moment, hoping to go back home soon. I'd love to be able to spend draft day or in April 23rd to 25th with parents, with my family, the people that have supported me the entire time. That'd be really awesome, but based on what's going on right now, it seems like it's going to be tough to do that.
Is that the plan, to be with your family? Obviously you would want to, but what's going to decide whether or not you are able to be in Oakville for the NFL draft or have to stay in Athens potentially?
Yeah, the issue right now is that the rookie mini camps are scheduled currently. They haven't moved back yet, but they're currently scheduled to be the week after the NFL draft. And so if I was to go back home and then come back after I got drafted, or what I ended up at a certain team into the United States, I'd have to take a 2-week self-isolation period, just because of based on everything going on. And that'd be kind of a tough deal. I don't want to miss out on anything. So if the way that the mini camps are scheduled now, I definitely want to maintain. I want to stay in the States, so I don't have to take any time off, and I can just go right to whatever I need to do. But if they move that back and it's a more than 2-week window, and then I will definitely be heading home But if not, I'll just have to video call my parents and on draft day and go from there. But yeah, it'd be much better to be home at that time.
Have you thought about at all what that moment would feel like, whether or not you get drafted in the NFL draft or you sign an undrafted free agent contract? Have you allowed yourself to go there at all?
Yeah, not really. I don't want to get my hopes up. I remember, in that Tony Romo documentary that I was talking about, he had a big party and draft day party for his family and whatnot, and then ended up going undrafted, and that's definitely a tough feeling. And so, I haven't been told that I'm going to get drafted, and I know that there's pros and cons to being drafted, but obviously it'd be cool for them to say my name and whatnot. But I'm just so excited to be able to have the opportunity and have the prospect of playing professional football, something that I've dreamed about for as long as I can remember. Excuse me. And so I'm just looking forward to being able to do that and continue to play football.
Well, you've worked hard and come certainly a long way to put yourself in the position where you could potentially have your name called in the NFL draft or sign a contract and get a shot in the biggest football league in the world and have a nice backup plan in the CFL as well. So Nathan, thank you so much for taking some time out of your busy schedule. Obviously, you talked about it earlier. You're zoomed in and focused on these interviews and have been impressing. So we really appreciate it and just send you some positive vibes down there.
I appreciate it, Justin. Thanks for having me.